1. What do we really gain by living our life well? What do we really gain by living our life well? Verse 1, the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. The words of the teacher, the preacher man. The word translated probably could better be summarized as words of the philosopher. I'm not too good at philosophy. It's one of my least favorite subjects, but Ecclesiastes is full of philosophy. The philosophy teacher, the preacher man is standing before the congregation and giving the proper perspective on life and showing the things that he has found that did not give him a proper perspective. He has examined life. He's looking at the deep questions of life, and many people don't look at the deep questions. We just keep our head down, put our head in the sand, and keep going, fill our life with entertainment, fill our life with things that we think are good, and we never stop and think about the deep questions of life. But the preacher man, the teacher, the philosopher stops and makes us think. He invites us as students to think through the questions. And the first thing he says in the book is meaningless. Verse 2 says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. That's his introduction. He's a philosophy teacher. That's what they do. Vanity of vanities. The King James version says, futility of futilities. Nothing makes sense. It's pointless. Pointless. Nothing is worthwhile. Meaningless, vanity is the Hebrew word habel in our English spelling, Hebel, habel. What it really means, and you can look it up in other passages of Scripture, it really means fleeting, here for a moment and then gone. Vanity of vanities, to put hope in anything that is here for a moment and then gone. These things they're so quick we go through life. It is fleeting. Even if you live 90 years, the years go by, they're just fleeting. Things are here for such a very short time, and if we do not have the right perspective on life, those things become meaningless because they are here for such a short time. It becomes vain to put hope in anything that is gone, just like that. And here is his first question. After saying meaningless, fleeting, vanity of vanities, verse 3 gives us his first question. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? What do you gain for a life's work of toiling under the sun? What do you really gain when it's all said and done? Since everything is fleeting, what do you really gain? What do you get from all your hard work? What does it really profit you? After it's all said and done, when you take all the income and the debits and the credits and you weigh it all out, what have you really profit? What have you had to show for it? And will it really matter in 40 years? Will it really matter in 400 years? Well, he's a king. You think his gain would be a lot. But he's come to the conclusion, even as a king, rich, powerful, he says it's the same. It's the same for a king as it is for a peasant. After 40 years, everything is gone. After 50 years, after 100 years, after 400 years, it's meaningless. He's toiled, and toil means to work severely, to work with irksomeness, to be irked by your work. You ever get frustrated at work? My wife, she's been doing a lot of technology here at this church, and she works at another church as well. She's been working with technology. Home this morning after going to the other church, setting things up there, and she came in the door, she yelled, YouTube! Because it's irksome. We work and it's irksome. You're driving along and all of a sudden there's a traffic jam and you got to get to New York or New Jersey by this time. And the clock's running out and you got to take a break. It's a little irksome. So what is there to show for a lifetime of work? What is there to show for working your fingers to the bone? Seeking to gain one piece of the world and make our mark on it before we leave. That's what we try to do. Try to mark on the world so people know we were here. 40 years, 50 years, 100 years. Now, this is my answer. The philosopher, the teacher, the preacher man doesn't give us any answers here. He's just asking questions. Should we work? Yes. Should we do it for our best? Yes, that's my answer. But at the same time, we should know that labor does not make our life. There is this desire in us, the more we work, the more we want to work. The more we gain, the more we want to gain. We reach the moon, and we got to keep going further. People make millions, but they got to make a little bit more. That's vanity of vanities, meaningless, fleeting. Our neighbor had to go into assisted living. A few weeks ago, they had an estate sale, and our street was just packed, people coming to buy everything that he had labored for over a good life. And now all of his stuff is gone. But does that mean his life is gone? No, it doesn't. They sold all his stuff. They sold his tools. They sold his lawn equipment. And I would see him out most every day because he was proud of his lawn, proud of his property, and worked hard on it, and I think you should. He worked hard on keeping his property, but all of a sudden they sold everything and it's gone. But his life did not consist of his property. In fact, I went over and I bought his wheelbarrow and his hand cart. And I promise you, I will not work as hard with those things as he did, because I know it's vanity. Proverbs chapter 23, 4 and 5. It says, do not wear yourself out to get rich. Do not trust in your cleverness. Sometimes I do that. Verse 5, cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. It all flies away. If that's all there is if our stuff and what we profit and what we gain and trying to make a name for ourselves, if that's all there is, it just flies away. So is living well really worth it? What do we gain? What do we profit? That's his question. So that's depressing. Well, stay with me. We're not done yet.